How do you make colours look more punchy in Lightroom Classic? The first thing you can do is add some contrast. So a simple way to do that is to use the contrast slider here, and whenever you add contrast to an image, it's going to make the colours appear more saturated. Watch what happens when I drag this contrast slider to the right. Notice that the colours are starting to appear a bit more saturated. I'll just double click this to reset it. You can also use the vibrance slider here to add saturation to areas of the image that aren't already very saturated. Watch what happens when I increase this vibrance. Some parts of the image get affected more than others. For example, in the foreground rocks here, there's hardly any colour because they're grey, so the vibrance slider is going to affect those more than areas that already have a lot of saturation. If you want to increase the colours and make them look more punchy for the entire photo, you can use the saturation slider. Unlike the vibrance slider, this will increase the saturation of areas that are already saturated, or in other words, it doesn't matter what the original saturation was, it will just increase it for everything. When you're using these sliders, you don't want to go overboard, otherwise things will look terrible. Another way you can increase the punchiness of the colours in your photo is to come down to the HSL section here. Make sure you're in the saturation section, and then use these sliders to increase the saturation of specific colours in the image. So for example, if we wanted to increase the saturations of the greens, we can use this slider, or the saturation of the blues in the image, we could use this slider. I'm just going to reset all of these sliders by double clicking on saturation, and instead I'm going to click this targeting button here and then come over to the image. This allows you to select colours that you want to increase the saturation of. So for example, in the sky here, I'm going to hold down the left mouse button over this blue area and then move the mouse button up and down. Notice when I do that, in the sliders on the right hand side here, it's changing mainly the blue slider but also a little bit of the aqua slider. So we can increase the punchiness of these blues just a little bit, and maybe we also want to increase the punchiness of these greens, so I'll hover over it, hold down the left mouse button and move the mouse up, and you can see these greens get more saturated.